Each feels like the talk of the past. Charlie Kirk spoke just voicing belief, shot for his words, a target of grief.
He stood on a platform of civil discourse, and we cannot stop to continue that civil discourse when our opposition will not meet us on the tent, but rather shoot at us. I have done stands at Camden Town, and whenever you do a stand, you potentially consent to your political opposition being the thing by which you die by. And I guarantee you, I have seen the United Kingdom, the radical left have been persecuting the Conservatives, who have one clear message: we want to conserve our culture and our heritage.
So hello everyone, I was actually not going to upload much over the next few weeks because I'm having a little break from YouTube just to chill and stuff, but of course, the minute my flight touches down, I get a text from my sister saying about Charlie Kirk. And that kind of fits in with the theme of this video. Like, how much do British people even know about Charlie Kirk? Now, in the context of my sister, we don't talk like loads and loads about politics. We have some good political conversations, but it's fair to say she doesn't follow American politics closely. So I was really surprised a couple months ago when she told me she knew who Charlie Kirk was. Pretty much because of these viral TikToks of him just saying the most bigoted, horrific shit you've ever heard. And that came after, I think he did like a speaking tour of the UK. And I'm going to talk about this guy in another video because he's been bawling his eyes out about Charlie Kirk, bizarrely. There's a liberal guy called Dean Withers, who my sister also knew. And this is like some guy who was like a fan of Destiny who became some like Gen Z debate bro or whatever. And he's debated Charlie Kirk. So my sister's seen a lot of that stuff. But my sister's also 23. I would say that most people over the age of 25 in the UK do not know who the fuck Charlie Kirk is. So that's why it seems bizarre that the UK has seemingly lost its mind about a far-right conservative influencer from the US. Now, the US has lost its mind as well. I'm not saying, it hasn't. I saw that video of JD Vance carrying Charlie Kirk's coffin. But I feel like in the American context, a lot of it makes sense in like an evil way because it's pretty clear the Trump administration are using this death to further their own agenda about prosecuting like trans people, for example. And even the Turning Point UK Twitter account said a trans person had killed him, like basically straight away, even though it's pretty clear now it's some sort of person who was even more far right than Charlie Kirk, which seems to be increasingly the case when stuff like this happens. It's someone even more conservative. But that doesn't really matter. It seems that the US government are using this to further their own agenda and create this anti-leftist McCarthyism like for 2025, where they're like investigating or trying to investigate, and politicians are leading this, investigations of people who are saying even very mild things criticizing Charlie Kirk's ideology and how he wasn't a good guy just because he's died now. But I want to talk about this in terms of the UK because I want to make a whole video on this because I saw I've even forgot the party's called, the Reform Party's conference the other day, and it looked like a conservative political rally from America. The increasing Americanization of UK politics, I absolutely fucking hate. And it is just importing all these cultural issues that have never been a thing in my lifetime. And it's also importing more far-right Christian issues as well. I'm not saying the UK hasn't been bad for far-right politics throughout its history. It definitely has. Not saying the UK doesn't have its problems, but there's a certain point of like Americanisms or a certain part of Americanisms that feel so detached from reality. But it really works in America because of just like geographically it's massive and how divided people are and how there's so much like, city versus rural kind of rhetoric around. Where in the UK, because we're all so close together, that this stuff feels more stupid to even try. But even with the Charlie Kirk stuff, it feels like increasingly we're heading down this path of Americanization, and we probably have done since Brexit. So I want to talk about all of this today. And let's just get into the video. So, like I said, I was on a flight when all of this happened, so I didn't even see it play out. But I can't even believe this. So Keir Starmer is the Prime Minister, who might not be the Prime Minister for much longer, considering all the stuff with Mandelson lately. Let's hope. But he says, my thoughts this evening are with the loved ones of Charlie Kirk. It's heartbreaking that a young family has been robbed of a father and a husband. We must all be free to debate openly and freely without fear. There can be no justification for political violence. I mean, insanely ironic from a guy who said Israel has every right to cut off Gaza's water and has, supplied the political violence, has actually helped with the political violence by Israel. But insane. Imagine, okay, you can imagine this, but imagine if Joe Biden, said something about someone like Tommy Robinson if they died or whatever, right? That's the level of absurdity that is happening there. Charlie Kirk hates Keir Starmer. Charlie Kirk is probably, if I go look right now, has probably said absolutely terrible things about Keir Starmer and the Labour Party and just Britain as a country. And he's just some random, there's so many of them, random conservative influencer. And there's so many of them, he'll be replaced tomorrow. And there's going to be, I can't tell the difference in the rhetoric between Stephen Crowder and Charlie Kirk. What is actually the fucking difference? There's so many of these people. Why the fuck is the UK Prime Minister, a Labour Prime Minister, even talking about this? I know, of course, it's massive news in America because Charlie Kirk is linked to the Trump regime. How is it relevant to the UK? And if Charlie Kirk had some sort of relationship with the UK, where, I don't know, his family were from here or something, or, he lived here or his wife was from here, maybe I'd understand a tiny bit, even though I wouldn't understand really. But I don't understand this at all. I'm pretty sure, not that I even need to look it up, I'm pretty sure Harold Wilson didn't put out a statement when George Lincoln Rockwell was killed, right? So what the fuck is the Labour Party doing this? It's the increasing Americanization of British politics, but also the normalization of the far right. Someone who is one of the most radical mainstream voices in America, who's accepted, right? And we're now tweeting about him like he's some sort of hero for free speech. The UK Prime Minister to start speaking about this is bizarre, and the UK state media talking about this is bizarre. So reporting by Sol Staniford, between 2 and 3 o'clock, BBC News dealt with a single story, and it's Charlie Kirk. From 3 to 4, they continued that story. No other story was even mentioned. That's 2 whole hours uninterrupted. Another update from 4 to 4:56. It continued to cover this single story. They finally broke to go to the weather. That's nearly 3 hours of uninterrupted news coverage of this one YouTuber being killed in America. And it wasn't even the only shooting that week. There was another shooting in a school, which seems way more newsworthy. And also you could combine these two because they're both done seemingly by far-right people. So it's an epidemic of far-right violence we're seeing in America, but they're just talking about this one thing. And they're getting on every fascist freak to talk to the news about it. And whitewash this guy even further. It's the complete normalization of far-right politics. Imagine if this was any far-right figure from any other country, 10 years ago. Would there be wall-to-wall 3-hour coverage about this? Of course there fucking wouldn't. And it's clear that, obviously, for left-wing people, we always knew the BBC is a right-wing institution, and it's going into a far-right institution, and it's state media, it's state propaganda, and, I'm also thinking it's a bit of a distraction from two things. It's a distraction from the UK complicity in Israel, which we know the BBC supports Israel, by the way. And it's also a distraction on the recent scandal with Peter Mandelson and his Epstein links, and how Keir Starmer both knew before he appointed him to be the ambassador to the US and actually knew recently before defending him. That should be 3-hour news. That story about how the Labour Party leader's position is untenable, not about the death of some random influencer. If you're going to list it off as part of the breaking news at the hour, then whatever. 3 hours. No one knows who the fuck he is. I can't even believe this. Proved by how many people went to his vigil in London. It numbered in the hundreds or under 200, right? Do you know how easy it is to organise a group of 100 people in London? Literally probably just ask random people on the street and they do it. So someone right here, most people in the UK outside of terminally online and US politics nerds will have never have heard of Charlie Kirk, yet the Prime Minister and Foreign Secretary are tweeting like it's a global political figure that's been assassinated. Bizarre. You're wrong. Almost everyone I've met today in my job in Cornwall has mentioned it and said how awful it is. One woman even cried. She looked about 60. You're underestimating how engaged the British public are in the world. I do not doubt that some older woman in Cornwall might be so brain-rotted from Twitter that she knows who Charlie Kirk is. Loads of people in Cornwall bawling their eyes out about Charlie Kirk. Cornwall, of all fucking places. Know who Charlie Kirk is? Come on. It's so fucking stupid. It's such a fucking lie. Yeah, I know people in the UK know who Charlie Kirk is. Random fucking people in the middle of nowhere in Cornwall. I mean, I probably don't think they do. Most British people don't know fuck all about their own politics. You think they know who Charlie Kirk is? Come on. Such a load of shit. But obviously there is a turning point in the UK. I remember when no one gave a shit about this. I think no one still gives a shit about it. But they responded to Keir Starmer. And this is what like the bulk of a lot of these attacks are. They're basically just criticising people who've ever criticised Charlie Kirk and saying they're responsible for what happened to him. So it says here, they respond to Starmer saying, your Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy described us and Charlie as sinister forces and xenophobic. Other Labour MPs have protested with violent far-left activists who attacked us. The language your party and the wider left uses to describe people like Charlie show us the reason why we face this violence. Shame on you. And it says, David Lammy described Turning Point as sinister forces and they openly promote hard right xenophobic bile. So him saying that is whipping up violence. And also Turning Point, I bet if I look at your page, I'm going to do this after I've recorded, I bet you have recently supported like the violent protests over the last year or so against refugee hotels. And you're complaining that the centre-right government have said that the far right are toxic and they're responsible. How the fuck are they responsible? Again, it's a monopolization the right wing have on violence. Like, they're carrying out the violence right now. The 2 shootings recently in America are done by conservatives. Because it was, again, done at a conservative, they're blaming the left. The left aren't doing this. It's the right. It's the right doing it to themselves because they're infighting about who supports Israel and who doesn't. But yeah, they're just tweeting more stuff. Look back in anger. I don't remember that Oasis song. And they just talk about arranging a vigil. You can see pictures of the vigil. Doesn't honestly look like too many people are there. I know to a lot of people watching that, it might seem quite busy. If you've lived in London and maybe you've gone out at rush hour, that just looks like a normal scene. As someone who's been to the protests that have like 500,000 people, yeah, it's not a lot of people who really care. But they did do this on Turning Point. They said, Charlie Kirk's shooter was motivated by radical transgender ideology. These people are a danger to us all. The guy grew up in a conservative family, was Mormon, and appears to be referencing memes that 4chan gropers love. But are Turning Point going to take that down? No. Are they whipping up hatred to trans people? Yes. Does that result in actual violence? Yes. But they're accusing David Lammy of inciting violence against Charlie Kirk. Again, there's no point, like, and I'm going to make another video about this, with liberals pretending Charlie Kirk was a great guy and they love him and stuff. He incited violence himself. He promoted a hateful, violent ideology. Obviously, what happened to him was terrible. See, the potential of what happened is loads more of people in that crowd could have been like shot by this guy and killed. See, with Charlie Kirk's thing, he's going to debate people. So he's trying to debate everyone from across the political spectrum. So this could have easily resulted, even if like law enforcement responded in a certain way, it could have resulted in a mass casualty event. This lone wolf violence is increasingly becoming common with the far right. And there's a reason for that, because far right people are ultra individualists, a lot of them. So they believe they can like change the world or do something by an individual act of violence, and that's why they keep doing this stuff. I said this straight away when I said, I bet that guy's a conservative who did this, because that's what the trend is. But again, these guys, they don't really give a shit even about Charlie Kirk. They're just using him to further their own agenda about trans people. And the US government, they don't give a fuck about Charlie Kirk. Have you seen Donald Trump? He's over it in 2 seconds. I thought they're meant to be mates. He's dancing, watching sports, and talking about like complete random shit with Fox News when they're literally asking him about Charlie Kirk. They really don't fucking give a shit. If the US government, who are using this death to increase their fascist agenda, don't give a shit, do you think anyone in the UK actually cares? No one in the UK actually gives a fuck, because they don't know who this person is. The only people who know who this person is terminally online people who support Reform UK. That's literally fucking it. Maybe some conservatives as well. Old women in Cornwall bawling their eyes out about it. No, that's not happening. So we've imported a lot of US culture wars here in the UK. And a lot of them are catching on now, which is depressing. But this one feels even more artificial than usual. Like, Keir Starmer even talking about this is fucking insane. BBC talking about this is insane. It shows you that both the government and the news media are completely bowing down to fascists and promoting fascism 24/7 and creating an Overton window that is exclusively like basically far right completely. Because why the fuck are they giving airtime to this? Was there any criticism? That's what I want to know. In this 3 hours, how many critical voices of this guy were brought on? I bet zero. I bet there was zero criticism of this guy on BBC News that day, but they still found footage to talk about this for fucking 3 hours. And yeah, so I'm sick of this shit. Also, I ended the video saying, this is how people in the UK do care about this. People in the UK see stuff like this and they think the US are barbarians. How can they have so much gun violence and not do anything about it? That's the main reaction that UK people have. Not, oh my God, I'm so upset about Charlie Kirk, who I knew and loved very well. It's, oh, another 2 shootings in a week. America is fucked up. I would never want to live there. That is the main reaction, right? And I have new feelings about the Second Amendment and different ones from when I would maybe have that reaction as well. But yeah, it is pretty clear that it's a very scary country and scary for a lot of people who work in any sort of political media or YouTube, that people who are mentally ill and people who have like a fascist violent agenda can just buy a gun very easily and do shit like this. And I liked what AOC did and a few of the other like more liberal politicians. They basically just directed it all into talking about gun violence, because that is the main issue. It doesn't matter if you really give a shit about like Charlie Kirk or anything like that. It's happened the same week another shooting happened. That's what, like 3 more people killed by gun violence in America by young people who are radicalized in far right ideologies. That's the scourge on America right now. And that's what people should be talking about. And that's what Keir Starmer should be talking about, not talking about Charlie Kirk like that. So that's it for the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.